So this episode is about taking a step back and observing the way our kids do things around the house. And as hard as it is sometimes to not fix it or do everything ourselves, this episode is about helping you with all of that and being okay with the way they do things. Parenthood is challenging enough as it is, and getting organized sounds easier said than done. Now, combine these two together, and it's truly a balancing act that many of us struggle with day in, day out. If you're here, it's because you want to know how to get your life and home more organized and structured where the kids are involved too, so that parent life is a little easier and you can focus on what truly matters. Hey there, I'm Dianne 𝘠𝘠, owner and founder of One Tidy Place. I created this podcast because I know parents have their hands full. I know this because I have 3 kids of my own. Each week, we'll talk about all things organizing, teaching kids life skills, and contributing to the home, being on the same page with your partner, and raising your kids together while you tidy up, go out for a walk, or just need some real talk. I'm here for you. Thank you for tuning in. Are you ready? Let's do this. Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Parenting Guide, Organizing Habits Made Easy podcast. And you're listening to episode number 40, being okay with the way our kids help out around the house. Now, you'll have to excuse my raspy voice. I don't know what's going on. It might be the remnants from last week's episode of all the kids being sick, one after the other. And speaking of the kids, they are home for the summer, so you might hear some noises in the background. There are definitely some pros and cons with the summer schedule, where one pro is having more flexibility in your time, and the con? Having to structure my workday because of that flexibility. I know it sounds so ridiculous, but if you've ever had to work from home with the kids at home, you know what I mean, and I believe most parents do. But not only that, the struggle to structure your day and then having to switch it up on a moment's notice because the kids are just being kids, on top of battling with your own mood and mental capacity, it's not easy, and you hardly feel productive. Speaking of which, my last podcast episode talks about this, being unproductive with my work, and what I'm doing differently this summer so I'm not MIA on my podcast for 6 months, like I was last year. Whether you taught them properly from the get-go or half-ass like I did on some or most things over time, we tend to get a little lazy or not so thorough when performing tasks around the house. And this is especially true if no one's saying anything about it, or the potential bad habits aren't being addressed at all. So lack of thoroughness turns out to be our norm. So what's the problem here? Well, the quick answer is the house isn't as clean and tidy on a regular basis. But when we need or want the house cleaner, it takes a lot longer to get it to that state we want. In some cases, that's guest ready. In my case, it's when our parents or our in-laws show up. No, I'm kidding. But basically, for me, it's about spending less time cleaning, scrubbing, picking up things, and figuring out where things go, and feeling frustrated all the time. This isn't the life I want, nor is it the person I want my family to be around. And I'm sure they don't want to be cleaning and getting nagged on all the time either, right? So, long answer from what's the problem with not being so thorough or doing things half-ass? Well, it's about habit and consistency. Funny, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day at the pool, and like a great listener to my podcast, she's been applying some of my tips, tricks, and strategies with her family. And the results? she's seeing progress and changes both inside her home and among her family members. They're more involved and taking initiative with helping to maintain their home. And she's absolutely loving it. Like, wouldn't you? It's music to my ears, literally. So the one thing we both wholeheartedly agree on is that it's truly about being consistent with maintaining the habits, consistent about the standards you want to uphold, and being consistent yourself with ensuring everyone's doing their part. Hey, if this sounds challenging and tough, you're right, it is. But the hard work, effort, and a little bit of time you put into it each day will pay off big time in the near future. So going back to consistency and habits, as you know, bad habits are hard to break and good ones are hard to maintain, especially if you don't get any results or any kind of gratification right away. So you end up cutting corners. Put it this way, do you often say, "Oh, I'll just do it myself, it's easier," or "it'll get done properly" when it comes to maintaining your home? Yeah, it's a lot easier and quicker, which gives you results. However, this only solves the right now problem, not the system as a whole, and that can totally bite you in the butt later on. Picture this. If we tend to take care of all the things because it's faster, done properly, or it's just easier, then it'll always land on you to fix, solve, clean, organize, set up, etc. You get what I mean? Then later on, when we're pretty much done with doing all the things and there's still so much more work to get done, we end up having to hire someone to do it for us because we just can't anymore. Or the kids follow suit because they've never learned how to do things, and it's just quicker, easier, and faster if they pay someone else to do it. There's no break in the cycle. So the goal of this episode is to guide you on how to get past the annoyance and immediate reaction of redoing the whole work yourself. And where's the best place to start? Not out there in the different spaces of your home, but from within. It starts with you. Now, I don't mean to ruffle any feathers, by all means. I'm one to always look from within when things could be improved. What can I do better, do different, tweak, so that'll be better the next time around, or things will run a lot smoother, or so that I don't have to keep going over things again and again and again. So first off, let's observe what happens around the house. I'm going to list you a few things my kids do right now, and at the time of this recording, my kids are 12, 10, and 9. Now, just to be clear, this isn't a complaint. It's merely an observation. I'm stating facts and removing all emotions and feelings it causes me. So the first one is when my youngest Kenzo folds clothes. His technique versus ours. It's more cylindrical than flat. The results of this is we can fit less shirts in our drawers sometimes. Onig and I will end up having to refold the whole thing or a few items because they just don't fit, or it's just, we don't even know if the shirt is ours, first of all. Number 2, how they wipe the table or sweep the floors differently from us and from each other. If you've ever watched your kids wipe or sweep things, it's never crumb-free, right? Next, the way they put back their clothes in the drawer, it's not aligned and definitely not what it looks like when I post pictures on social media. Maybe after this episode, I'll post a comparison, our method versus the way they do it, so you see what I mean. On a side note, what looks perfect and in place on social media is only a snapshot of real life. After that post, life happens. It gets messy and we have to tidy things up. and it's totally normal, especially when you have kids. Okay, moving on. The way Kehlani, my second kid, wipes the mirrors and glass. I caught her doing this the other day, but there were streaks everywhere in the mirrors and glass in the bathroom, and I don't know what she used, but yeah. If you've listened to a past podcast episode where she decided to clean the outside bay window a couple of years ago and attached a wet, soapy paper towel at the end of a Swiffer wet mop and started scrubbing the window, she didn't come back to wipe or rinse it off. To her, it was done. And there were streaks on her windows for weeks. Her heart and thoughts were in the right place. And that's all I got to say about that. Next, the way the kids dust using the Swiffer. I saw my oldest 𝘰 dusting, and it was like they did it on TV with a feather duster, light to the touch and quick. No lifting of the items on the table, just Swiffering. I don't even know if he touched the surfaces around it, but yeah, it was like watching a Disney cartoon just dusting. All right, my final example is how kids don't do the obvious things like opening both layers of the blinds. I know this is ridiculous, but it gets to me because the house gets super dark if they don't open their blinds in the morning. And particularly in the kids' rooms, they have two blinds, like the sheer one and the opaque blackout blinds. So sometimes they'll just open one, if they do at all. So what's the point of all these realizations and observations? It's a big challenge sometimes not to just fix whatever it is right then and there. Don't get me wrong, I don't always let things slide. But when I catch myself saying, wait, it's okay, I trust it because sometimes done is better than not done, and good enough is simply good enough. In other words, allowing yourself to think beyond the immediate reaction to fix or redo and looking at the big picture allows us to slow down even a little bit. And this is a good thing. By the way, what I mean about looking at the big picture, it's about teaching the kids life skills and setting them up for success well into adulthood. So whenever you notice how they do things, take it from their perspective and put a positive light in it. For instance, if I take my examples from before, the way my youngest folds, yes, it's round and there are wrinkles when we unroll the piece of clothing. Yes, sometimes we have to unfold some of their things so they'll fit in our drawers, or even just to find out whose piece of clothing this really belongs to. And yes, it's annoying, but the big picture, it's giving our kids opportunities to try, to learn, and participate. My friend, these are all wins. Bottom line, he folded a whole basket of laundry on his own. That's a huge win for all of us. It's one less thing to do, one less thing that's reminding us, hi, don't forget to fold me. And most of all, one less thing that will weigh on me mentally. That in itself is a huge win. In essence, it's about shifting our mindset from potentially reacting to what we see and looking internally first. By doing this, it helps us move forward and not stay stuck, questioning ourselves, why do they keep doing it like this? I might as well do it all myself. Also, looking from within ourselves helps us to slow down and give us more headspace to come up with the next best thing we could do for them as well as for ourselves mentally. Ever forget to wash something so you just pull it out of the hamper? How many times have the kids run out of clean underwear? And forget trying to remember the last time the sheets and blankets were even washed. Leave the guesswork and uncertainty behind and download my PDF guide right now. In this new guide I created, I walk you through step by step on how to plan and schedule your laundry items so that you'll have peace of mind knowing there's a plan to follow. When there's a plan, there's no extra thinking involved on your part. I also provide you with the tips and tricks on how to get kids started and involved. Included in this PDF guide is an example of what our laundry schedule looks like right now, so you have an idea of how it all works. Don't let laundry overload you anymore. Take control and let this guide do the thinking for you. Head to diannejimenez.com/laundry schedule. So how do we go about moving forward or doing the next best thing? Well, you can do one of the following 3 strategies whenever you feel the urge to redo, flip out, or a combo of the 2. Number 1, set expectations. For example, last summer, it was starting to look like how the summers were back in the day, pre-COVID, meaning the kids were going in and out all day, every day, from the pool to going to their friend's house, to having them all over for a few hours, to having full-on sleepovers. You know, the memorable summers we try to create. Anyway, as I was explaining this to my husband and setting his expectations, I think verbalizing it with him, come to think of it, was me trying to wrap my head around what the next 9 or so weeks were going to look like. To illustrate, the house was not going to be as tidy as I'd liked it to be because we'd hardly be home. I think my exact words to him were, "Don't expect the floors to be mopped each week." I continued with, "The kids are in and out from the pool and to the park. I won't be able to keep up and be with them all the time because I still have to watch my kids at the pool, right?" Thankfully, he totally got where I was coming from, and that eased my mind so much. Now, this summer's a little different because we've implemented a chart system a few months ago that gets everyone involved in helping out. So now it's not all on me to maintain the house. It's on them too, especially because they like having their friends over. You'll hear more about this new chart system in the next few weeks, so stay tuned. Okay, so to help with setting expectations, look at the time of year it is. What season is it in your life? Meaning, where are you? Do you have toddlers or a mix of young and older kids? In the podcast interview I had with my husband back in episode number 32, I asked 𝘠𝘞𝘡 about his thoughts on the state of our house when we still had babies and toddlers. His reply couldn't be more perfect. He said the cleanliness of the house wasn't the priority. It was making sure the kids were fed, clothed, and cared for. Everything else was secondary. Boom. After that episode, I listened to it again later on, and I was like, you know what? He was right. As much as I want to cringe looking at these old videos of our house being a mess and the vacuum hose being a permanent fixture on our floor, it didn't matter. The kids were healthy, we were with them all the time, they were happy, and we were just trying to get by, you know? So the house definitely took the back burner in this time in our life, in that season in our life. Now, when it comes to the season in the kids' life, it's about how old are they and what they're capable of doing, and all of this is based on their schedule. In other words, what can they successfully do given how busy they are with their activities, the events, their appointments, etc. Getting real about all of this can help us big time. It'll help regulate our own emotions when it comes to the way the kids perform their tasks and chores at home. My second strategy to help us to do the next best thing after seeing the outcome of our kids' work and fight the urge to redo it all and avoid getting frustrated is to be thankful. Yes, this could be a very hard pill to swallow when the efforts look like it's subpar, but let's cut ourselves some slack and them too, okay? Being thankful that the task or chore is done at their capacity ties in a lot with the season you're in, as explained in strategy number 1. When it comes to capabilities, for example, 6-year-olds don't fold as well as 9, 10, 12-year-olds. I see it in the way my 12-year-old does it versus his younger siblings. Their attention to detail is so different, but it doesn't mean you can't tweak things, which brings me to my next tip. But first, congratulations! You lived another day in a cleaner, more organized house that the kids helped to maintain. Remember, every little bit counts in the grand scheme of things, right? So my third strategy to refrain from just doing it all yourself, reduce the overwhelm, and just be okay with the way our kids do things is to take the time and re-educate them or tweak things a bit. Hey, it happens like I mentioned at the beginning. We all get lazy sometimes when our work's not being monitored or no one's really saying anything about it. So before any bad habits kick in, let's get in there and nip it at the bud. So just by asking, show me exactly how you do this, insert the task or chore, it can give you loads of information about how well they've interpreted your instructions from way back when, and whether or not you'll need to reintroduce or just tweak their system or sequence so the results are exactly how you want them to be. However, there is a chance you may not need to re-educate or reteach them how to do the task because they've come up with their own ways of doing things. And this is great because I'm a firm believer of many solutions to a problem. So it's very possible that whatever they show you sheds some light about them and the way they see things. It's pretty magical when you take a moment to capture all of that. The proverb, "When one teaches, two will learn" by Robert 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠, I don't know if I pronounced that properly, but it's so fitting here. As their first teacher, you will learn so much along the way. But I know you know this already. I just wanted to remind you. All right, let's do a quick recap of today's episode and the 3 strategies. Number 1, our kids will do their tasks and it won't always result in the way we'd like it to be. 2, instead of thinking you should just do it all yourself next time or redo the whole thing right then and there, slow down your thoughts and look inwards to do one of the 3 strategies. The first one would be set expectations. What season are you in life? How busy are you? And what can the kids really do based on the busyness of their life? The second one, be thankful. This goes hand in hand with life's busyness. Remember, done is better than not done, and good enough is good enough. And finally, re-educate or tweak. Let them walk you through the way they do the task. You'll see it. You'll get an intel on whether or not you need to go over the whole process with them or just tweak their method a bit so that the results are exactly how you want them to be. So before I go, here's what I'm asking you to do right now after you listen to this episode, of course. Pick just one task that your kid is doing that's not quite at the level it could be and go through one of the strategies. Set your expectation, be thankful, or re-educate or retweet. And if you're game, tag me in your stories with the strategies you're using. I want to give you some virtual PDA. All right, my friend, thank you so very much for tuning in today and taking me along with you on your walk, your drive, or while you're tidying up. Don't forget, you can share this episode on social media from wherever you're listening to this podcast. More eyes on my show means helping more parents out there who could really use some guidance and direction. With that, have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of the week. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.